Dillian Whyte has an interesting take on the psychology of WBC World Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder. I'm going to quote Dillian Whyte directly here. He says, it's an easy fight. And first of all, he's talking about Deontay Wilder's fight against Dominic Breazeale. And he also talks about Deontay Wilder's recent comments in terms of having no remorse if Breazeale was to pass away due to injuries incurred in, the fight against Wilder. So Dillian Whyte says it's an easy fight. Deontay Wilder will bash Dominic Breazeale up. Breazeale is scared of Wilder. I watched the press conference, the face-off. Breazeale, he was shaking in his boots. Wilder again saying, I can hear your heartbeat. I'm a killer. You've never been in front of a killer before. What are you talking about? This is boxing. You're not a killer. You're not some hitman. It's boxing. The guy is stupid. Wilder is a crackhead. Crackheads say crackhead-like things and do crackhead-like things. They're desperate. They do desperate stuff, say desperate stuff, and that's why Wilder is a crackhead. He's scared. He needs to say these things to himself to get his confidence up. He's basically talking to himself. When someone's scared and nervous, they say erratic things and say things they don't mean. He puts on this massive bronze bomber persona and he shouts and he's loud. It's just to give himself self-esteem. He's scared and he doesn't know what to say, just like crackheads do. All right, so those are the words of Dillian Whyte, and I can understand what Dillian Whyte is saying. And I actually agree with him. I think that Deontay Wilder coming out with the outlandish things he says is because deep down, he feels vulnerable. And so this is his way of responding to vulnerability, is to be extra vicious. I've talked about this before. When Deontay Wilder first started saying that he wants to catch a body and he wants a body on his record, he was widely criticized and widely condemned by boxing fans. And I said, look, in this sport, particularly when you're dealing with incredibly hard punchers like Deontay Wilder, the mentality that you have to have when you don't have, the greatest skills, but you are a tremendous puncher, the mentality you have to survive at that level is not like the mentality of the average Joe. It's not like the mentality of the average professional boxer. You got to have a different kind of mentality. If Deontay Wilder did not have this tremendous punching power, he would be probably a journeyman somewhere. But his punching power is the equalizer for him. It's his get out of jail card. So everything hinges on Deontay Wilder's punching power. Yeah, it's not the only skill he has, or the only ability he has, rather. No, he does have a nice jab and, he can stick a move against shorter guys, but he wouldn't be anywhere near as good as he is without that power. And power is not just a physical action. This is what a lot of people need to understand. When you're talking about elite punchers, the Mike Tysons, those kind of guys who smell blood and go for it, right? Guys who punching power is at the center of their game. These guys train different. That's what a lot of people don't understand. They don't train with the same mentality that you might train with. They train with dark things in their mind when they're hitting the bag, when they're hitting the pads. A lot of these guys, the Kovalevs, the Stevensons, these guys train with a different mentality. And that mentality manifests in the ring. That mentality manifests in the way they hit opponents. You see, the way you think is the way your body is going to respond. The mind controls the body. And so when Wilder comes out talking about he's trying to catch a body, I'm not surprised. Mike Tyson said similar things throughout his career. And he wasn't joking. Tyson's got on record after his career was finished and said that he weren't joking when he was talking about catching a body. That was actually an ambition of his. And that manifested in Tyson's fighting style. That's why Tyson was so ferocious, because what was in his head was animalistic. Do you understand? Same thing for Wilder. And it is a fight or flight kind of mentality. I remember Teddy Atlas saying that Mike Tyson was such a good student of boxing growing up because he was scared. So he wanted to do everything humanly possible to protect himself from taking a beating or getting knocked out or whatever in the ring. Which is why he was so studious and studied everything and trained, to a ridiculous extent, because he was scared. Deontay Wilder, same kind of mentality. He's scared. That's why in psychologically for him, he has to go on the offensive. That's his response to feeling vulnerable, is to attack, and just think the most destructive and extreme thoughts and have the most malevolent intent towards the opponent. That's the way Wilder responds in this kind of environment. Obviously, not all fighters respond that way. Other fighters have got different kind of style, a defensive style, where they feel comfortable in the pocket with you slinging shots at them and, they hit you back. There are other fighters, who are boxer punchers and they can punch, but again, they don't have quite the same mentality as a Wilder or, a Mike Tyson, etc. But I'm telling you, these historically tremendous punchers, many of them have this kind of mentality. And it's not only them, there are also fighters at lower levels, fighters who can't necessarily punch that hard, who have the same kind of mentality. But what Wilder is doing is bringing to light what goes on in the minds of many professional boxers. It's just that very few of them are going to come out and say it, okay? For obvious reasons, there's going to be backlash. Wilder, being the impulsive character he is, he comes out and says it. One, because, he's impulsive and he doesn't really think about consequences, but also two, because in his mind, he's trying to intimidate the opponent. And I guess he's trying to impress on the fans, and he's trying to just put that energy out there that I'm the one who needs to be feared, not the other guy. Fear me. My intentions are so extreme. I'm the one you need to be worried about. And that's, like I say, from a psychological point of view, that's a defense mechanism of taking his fear and turning it into fire, as Costamato used to say, and projecting that fire everywhere. It's a fight or flight, very primal, instinctive reaction to being in a hostile environment and in a dangerous situation. So, yeah, that's essentially what Dillian Whyte is also saying, although Whyte puts it in more colloquial terms. He says that Wilder's like a crackhead and he's scared, and he says he's basically, when he's talking to himself. He is, in a way, talking to himself. He's trying to talk himself confident, but many fighters do that. Yeah, I think Dillian Whyte does it to a lesser degree. I think Tyson Fury does it. I think Muhammad Ali did it. These were all guys who would talk themselves confident. And there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, whatever works, works. If that's been your method for many, many years to talk yourself confident, then that's your method. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it. If it works for you, it works for you. And it's been working for Deontay Wilder so far. It's been working for Tyson Fury. It's been working it worked great for Muhammad Ali throughout his career. Muhammad Ali admitted that going into the Sonny Liston fight, he was terrified. But yet, before that fight, he was talking and shouting and hollering and screaming. And, he was at the pre-fight weigh-in, screaming at Liston and acting like a madman because he said he wanted Liston to be scared. And he was acting all aggressive and, like there was no fear there. But later on, he privately admitted that actually he was terrified. You see, he had to talk himself confident. He had to convince himself that he could do this. And it worked. He went out there and he slayed the big ugly bear. Got rid of Sonny Liston. And Ali used that same tactic throughout his career of degrading the opponent. Because, degrading the opponent, making poems about them and all this kind of stuff, it wasn't just for our entertainment. It wasn't just to sell a fight. No, it was Muhammad Ali trying to defeat the opponent in his own mind before defeating him in the ring. Ali would look at the opponent and it wasn't always their fighting ability. It might be their appearance. Ali would try and make a joke out of their appearance. So in his own mind, he's kind of degrading the opponent. Do you understand? In his own mind, he says, he's not so tough. He looks silly. He's not so tough. He looks like a washerwoman. He's not so tough. He looks like a rabbit, or he looks like a mummy, or he looks like, whatever, a big ugly bit. He's not so tough. That was Ali's psychological approach. you know? And it worked. Whatever works, works. And if this works for Deontay Wilder, it works for him. I can fully understand people having an issue with what Wilder says in terms of catching a body. At the end of the day, I definitely do not want to see anybody lose their life in a boxing ring. I do not want to see that. And that is why we have, doctors and referees and cornermen to protect the fighters, to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I'm also in tune with the reality that many fighters go into the ring with that on their mind, with trying to inflict that level of physical damage. Wilder just happens to be one of the few who actually comes out and admits it. Yeah? But don't be deluded. Don't be fooled into thinking that he's the only one. There are plenty of others, I'm telling you. All right, this is a very, very tough game. And again, Wilder talks about the average person not being able to understand the mentality that he has. And I get that too. The average person can't understand the mentality because you're not in his shoes. He has an extreme mentality because he feels like he needs one. Do you understand? To do what he does, to hit as hard as he does, to give himself confidence in that kind of environment, he feels like he needs that kind of mentality. Fight or flight, you know? It's like when you go to prison. Anyone who's been to prison, especially if you go to a tough prison, you could have gone to prison for a non-violent crime. But within a few weeks or a couple months in that prison, more often than not, you're going to become more violent because you have to. Because people are going to test you in there, particularly, if you're someone who's not known, or maybe you're small in stature or something like that. People are going to test you. They're going to push your buttons. And if you don't respond and show that you're not to be messed with, you're going to have even more problems in there. Fight or flight. And those who choose to fight end up doing extreme things in prison. And when they come out of prison, they actually have to bring it down several notches and readjust to the world, because they come out of prison with an extremely violent mindset, because that's what they needed to survive in that environment. So again, that's what Wilder feels like he needs to survive in this environment of professional heavyweight boxing. Is what it is. Again, thankfully we have referees, doctors, cornermen, etc., to protect the fighters from losing their lives. Occasionally it does happen, unfortunately, regardless of what the intention of the opponent is. Occasionally fighters do lose their lives and end up seriously hurt, etc. It's still relatively rare, thankfully. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.